Hi. Before we begin Chapter 2, I just wanted to remind you that this book is recommended for ages 10 or 11 plus and has some themes that are consistent with teen sexuality, violence, and language. Parental guidance is suggested. Chapter 2, 1 year later. Wednesday, August 17th, 1955. I arrived early to my friend Fiz's house that Wednesday because I couldn't sit still at home. My dad's office was closed and he was home reading the paper. My mom was keeping busy in the kitchen, putting away a set of vomit green dishes she recently received through mail order. Not a word was spoken between them until noon. Don't get me wrong, they weren't mad at each other. This is just how things were at my house now. A lot of extreme quiet interrupted by occasional sighs. The quiet was sometimes comforting. If you didn't have to converse, then you wouldn't have to hear or say painful beginnings of sentences like, "I wish Brand was able to," or, "Hey, remember when Brand..." Unfortunately, with the quiet came some painful disadvantages. Void of involvement in conversation and other distractions, my brain would fill the space and time with its own unnerving thoughts. Thoughts about the past, thoughts of Brand. These were the most painful times for me, and since the anniversary, it had gotten worse. This is why I needed to escape early from my house, and there was no better retreat than Fiz's basement. I delivered the secret knock to the heavy metal doors of the basement, a series of knuckle raps, slaps, drum rolls, and taps. It was a little extreme, but a necessary guard from unwanted intruders. I heard nothing. This meant Fiz was upstairs, because he always answered the secret knock within a few seconds. I noticed, however, that the left door was propped open with a thick piece of wood. I hesitated for a moment and wondered if I had told Fiz I would be coming early. Either way, he would be expecting me by 1 p.m., so I didn't feel bad about entering. I wedged my fingers under the brown painted metal and lifted with all my might until it squanked open. As I expected, Fiz wasn't there. Fiz's dad finished and decorated the basement to escape his marriage before the divorce papers had even been served. The cellar, as we reverently called it, was a virtual museum. It couldn't have been decorated any better by a 14-year-old. Comic books and baseball cards painted the walls, interrupted only by posters of movie stars and rock and roll singers. If you wanted to see Batman, Stan Musial, Buddy Holly, and Marilyn Monroe in the same room, this was your chance. The contrast of lighting in the cellar created the illusion that the images were about to jump off the wall and spring into action. It was the coolest place in town. Every year on the day before the start of the fair, my brother and I, along with my friends Costello, G-Man, and Fiz, gathered in the cellar. We would play cards, talk up our favorite baseball players, and chat about which girls we wanted to kiss. We were one less this year, but nobody mentioned it, at least not in my presence. I sat on the couch and looked down at the huge mountain of baseball cards that almost entirely covered the deep blue coffee table that sat at my feet. Within seconds, I was organizing them by team and in alphabetical order. Although I was no longer a big fan of baseball cards, I needed something to do until Fiz joined me. Rap-a-tap, diddle-it, rap-a-tap, diddle-it, pop. Someone had delivered the secret knock, and by the precise way it was performed, I immediately knew who it was at the door. I dropped the remaining cards I was holding to answer it. Bump, bump, slap, bump, bump, diddly-tip, slap. I unlatched the door and pushed it up, which allowed the visitor's long black fingers to slide underneath. "What's up, partner?" G-Man said, as he lifted the door open and slipped into the cellar. Garrison Henry Day, G-Man, was the oldest in the bunch and my closest friend. He was a colored boy. Not too many people bothered about him because he had quite the intimidating look. He was tall, lean, and could throw a ball from here till next week. His hands were bigger than my head, and his voice was deeper than a hole to china. All of his features were as dark as night, his skin, hair, and eyes. He dressed neat and clean, and often caught the attention of the ladies. He said the least out of the crew. This was partly because he stuttered, but mostly because he didn't like to tell stories. Truth and facts is where it's at, he would always say. G-Man was the opposite of our friend Fizz, who he mocked all of the time for his ridiculous tales and antics. We walked toward the couch, but before we were able to sit, we heard a slam, a squeak, another slam, and what sounded like a stampede of buffalo heading down the stairs. The figure hit the floor, rolled into a somersault, leapt into the air, flew over the back of the couch, and landed just between where G-Man and I were going to sit. Afternoon, jerts! Where's our friend? I'm going to try that one again. Afternoon, jerts! Hey, where's our friend? The round one, Fizz questioned. Christopher Frederick Izzo, Fizz, was the life and energy of our group of friends. Our batteries, if you will. He was tall, awkwardly thin, and wound up like a teenage tornado. His short blonde hair and blue eyes were overshadowed by his red, candy-stained lips. He always wore bib overalls and fashioned a slingshot in the back pocket. His mouth and body were in constant motion, which lent itself to Fizz's gift for impersonations. He could imitate almost anyone, make you laugh in an instant, and get you into trouble quicker than a hog could crap. The round one was, in fact, his best friend Costello. They had lived next to one another since birth. Costello always took the fall for one of Fizz's wacky plans when they blew up and never once ratted him out. In addition, Costello provided a safe haven for Fizz to escape his arguing parents by leaving his bedroom window open even in the winter. The three of us sat drinking Pabst root beer, pretending it was the real thing, awaiting Costello's arrival. Fizz chimed in. Have I got a story for you guys? Oh, here we go again, G-Man exclaimed. Is this another story of alien dogs digging up pirate treasure in your backyard? I asked. No, this is a sports story, but that alien dog thing is legit, Fizz rebutted. Fizz jumped off the couch and took center stage in the room, where he began to talk about a boxing match he had seen last month on television with his dad. Floyd Patterson versus Archie McBride. His voice changed into that of a fast-talking dog-yelping ring announcer as the lights in the cellar dimmed even further. A spotlight gently shone on Fizz, displaying his sweaty forehead, which he dabbed with a white handkerchief. He began. A swirl of cigar smoke dances through the room. Flashbulbs crack as reporters try to capture the intensity and emotion on the faces of the fighters. The sound of the crowd fills the room, and cheers and jeers are thrown at the boxers. Kill the bum and get 'em, champ! The bell rings a copper tone, and the ring announcer continues. It's the 7th round, and the champ Floyd Patterson looks stunned. He's just taken one on the chin. He seems to be hurt. He's bobbling up and down, and his legs are beginning to give way. I can't believe this. He's looking out into the crowd in a daze instead of at the challenger. McBride seems astounded that he has somehow, against all odds, been able to hurt the champ. What's this? He's pausing for a second, maybe waiting for his moment to strike. And there he goes, in for the kill. Listen to the crowd buzzing with anticipation. 2 less to the body, and another chop to the head. And he's down. That's it. Bout over. What a finish. Holy crap. Patterson, the champ, went down, I exclaimed, shattering Fizz's storybook world. Fizz responded wearing a confident smirk on his face. Nah. Those were the champ's punches, and they were quicker than lightning. Fizz furiously imitated the punches until he hurt his shoulder trying to throw a wild haymaker. He rubbed it, wincing in pain. My mouth was agape. What happened to McBride? I already knew the answer. Fizz hesitated and then yelled, whammo! Just as a large object struck the outside of the cellar door. The combination of Fizz's loud mouth and the crash on the door practically shook the room, and we all jumped. What the hell was that? G-Man stuttered as everyone looked around towards the source of the thud. Something had landed on the cellar door. G-Man stood up and tried to push it open, but it wouldn't budge. We all joined him and waited for his direction. On three, guys, he ordered. 1, 2, 3. Arg! We all grunted as the door slowly gave way. Costello's body stood up, supported by the door, and then he crumpled to the ground like a puppet whose strings were cut. He barely let out a cry as he fell toward the earth. Is he dead? G-Man asked as we hesitantly moved closer. It was then that Costello let out the loudest fart ever to hit the Midwest. We jumped back 4 feet. "The Challenger is down!" I cried out, and we all began to howl.